Revenge films.
My name is Jean Oregano, and I live with my officeman husband, Jeff. Before we got married, I was thinking about our future. Our future, with children and a nice house. So I worked part-time to save up as much as I could to make it great. However, my mother-in-law suddenly got a bad pain in her lower back, and living on her own became a lot more difficult practically overnight. Concerned for her, Jeff told me to get to her place every day to help her out with housework, and that posed a few problems. The most inconvenient of which was that her home was a 30-minute train ride away from where we lived. Hang on, how long do you want me to do this?
Huh? What kind of question is that? Until Mom gets better, of course.
But I have my job to worry about, and considering how we want to have children in the future, the more savings we have, the better. Going over to your mother's place would demand a lot. I'm not gonna lie.
Your job, but it's just part-time, and it's pretty unimpressive admin work at that. Mom's health is more important here, so I expect you to either take time off or ask them to make your shift shorter. I hope I don't have to question your personal views on my own mother, Jean, because things could get rocky.
Sure, it wasn't impossible to talk to my boss about the situation and get shorter hours so that I could give my mother-in-law the help she needed. But there was one reason why I really didn't want to see Miss Oregano. Long before Jeff and I got married, his mother would constantly abuse me. And this wasn't like the stories you hear of strict mother-in-laws saying such harsh things in order to make them feel like the better person in the house. No, this was far more serious. How serious? Consider it like this. I was pretty much nothing but a punching bag in her eyes. Daily insults and violent language was a huge mental burden for me. And when she was in an especially merciless mood, she occasionally resorted to physical abuse too. There were times I had to go to the hospital because of what she did. And the worst part was that I couldn't tell anyone the truth because I feared what she would do to me if she found out that I blabbed about her reign of terror. But because she had a lot of lower back pain, maybe she physically can't inflict any abuse on me. And it's only housework, nothing too much to handle, in any case. But even with all the hardships I've had to endure up until now, I saw this as an opportunity to prove myself to her as her son's husband. And with a kind heart, I went on to accept the challenge, at least until her back healed. And that proved to be one of the biggest mistakes I've ever made in my life. One day after work, I got to the train, rode for 30 minutes, got off at the right stop, and started walking for Mrs. Oregano's home. After finally arriving, I rang the doorbell calling for her, as I untied my shoelace. "Wait a minute, please, dear. I'm taking a bath right now." Such was the response to the doorbell. But even a long while after that, the door never opened. Before I knew it, I'd been waiting outside in the front porch for more than an hour. I thought that she was having some trouble moving around the house because of that sore back of hers, so I restrained myself from complaining about how long it was taking, and kept on waiting patiently and impatiently. But in retrospect, if this was how it was going to be, I regret not having left. But this was only the tip of the iceberg when it came to her abuse during that time she had back pain. When she finally let me inside, it was around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and my plan was to finish the housework quickly before going home to make dinner for Jeff and I. However, she told me that she was trying to cut down on the electricity bill and the water bill, so she forbade me from using the vacuum cleaner and the washing machine. The laundry was done all by my own 2 hands, and the cleaning was done mostly with a broom, a dustpan, before using a wet cloth to make things look nice. But at this point, it was already 6 o'clock in the evening. Now Mrs. Oregano told me she was hungry, so after whipping up some simple and delicious for her, and I had a plan to finish up the housework while she was eating. But as you would expect, it didn't go that way. Not by a long shot. Mrs. Oregano took one look at what I prepared, made a face of disgust, and exclaimed, "The color looks off," before pushing the plate off the table. It shattered into pieces on the floor. She never even took a single bite. Every single thing on the plate. The meat, the mashed potatoes, the gravy, the green peas, and carrots, and the corn soup along with it was all ruined. "Why would you do such a thing?" I asked her, to which she retorted, It's your damn fault for trying to serve someone unhealthy food to a poor, sick woman like me. If the roles were reversed, I would have made something a lot better than that load of gunno. Make something else now. That smile on her face made me want to break every single bone in that frail body of hers. You'll forgive me, Mrs. Oregano, but I have nothing to cook for someone who treated the food that I took time and effort to whip up with the most brutal disrespect. I stood my ground, and that's when she took the offensive. She started swinging at me with that new fictitious cane of hers. She may be experiencing some pretty bad back pain, but boy, she sure could move fast regardless. She struck me a couple times before I saw an opportunity, evaded a blow, and wrenched the cane out of her grasp. Mrs. Oregano, with any additional support to help her stand and walk around, slowly crumpled on the floor, sitting down breathlessly, trembling with effort. But only for an instant, because she then regained her furious energy of negativity and started hollering an onslaught of brutal insults at me. Give me back my cane, you bitch! Get to the higher ground, do you? Let me guess, you're thinking of hitting me back now, aren't you? Perish the thought, Your Highness. I refuse to do anything that would make me even remotely similar to you. I would rather swim across the Dead Sea with paper cuts all around my body and slowly die a painful death by infection. I suggest you calm down, Mrs. Oregano. I'm helping you up. Now, come on, be reasonable. Don't hurt your back. I gave her a gentle rub like a massage on her lower back where the pain was, and she screamed like she's been stabbed with a red-hot rod of smoldering iron. I kept on massaging her back until she was crying tears of happiness. After all she's done, I was being this merciful to her, after all. And afterward, she calmed down quite a bit, so I went on finishing up the housework before heading home, but then Mrs. Oregano got her energy back and started shouting again. It was getting really annoying, so instead of going with plan A, which was do everything that was left of the housework, I put down the plate I was just washing and the sponge, turned off the water, grabbed my purse, and left the house, abandoning her in her own stupid, unreasonable silence of hell. The next morning, I woke up to discover the places she'd struck me in previous nights were in some pain, so I went to the hospital to have them checked. After a routine checkup, the doctor wrote me an official diagnosis report and sent me home with instructions to rest for a couple days. I told Jeff what had happened after he came home from work, but his response was not what I was hoping.
She's just very irritated she can't move around on her own right now. That's all. Forgive her, jeez. It's not like she's threatened your life or something. You have such a cold heart sometimes, Jean.
In other words, he defended his mother even though this could be a solid grounds to have her arrested for assault. So I told him, I'm not helping your mother out anymore. And don't even think about having me move in with her. It's out of the question.
Oh my god, you are such a cruel little witch. I know Mom told me some things about you, but I never thought they were freaking true. I can't believe my own wife won't even help out her own mother-in-law when she's struggling to survive.
We fought all night, all the way in the morning, when Jeff, his eyes bloodshot with anger and sleepiness, grabbed his bag and slammed the front door behind him. That night, he brought back a divorce document that had already been filled out and signed by him. The part where I had to do everything was still vacant, and it was like it was calling to me. Jeff shoved the slip of paper in front of my face with the biggest, most condescending smile on his face and said, "You know what? You freaking want to do this divorce document? I need to remind you, though, to really think well before you come to a conclusion, eh? You probably know this already, but I'm a full-time employee with a nice salary enough to support both of us. And you're a measly part-timer who makes $300 a month and can't even provide enough support for a canary bird, let alone a grown woman like you. Be sure to think about it before you decide." Yay! Inside, I was literally exploding with joy, but I decided not to show it. Donned a solemn face and slumped my shoulders. I made sure my voice sounded extremely shocked and depressed when I said, "No, please," and took the slip of paper from his hands. Perhaps Jeff thought he'd won the war, because he did the impossible. The already enormous grin on his face became even bigger, and with those bloodshot eyes, he looked like the Grinch when he decided to use a nuke to destroy Christmas. Being overjoyed with his proposal of divorce, I got extremely close to bursting into laughter, but I managed to keep myself composed.
I'm going to bed now. I'll see you tomorrow. This is something you do have to think about all night, after all.
After checking and confirming he was sound asleep, I sneaked around the bedroom, quickly gathered up some of his stuff, put them in a couple bags, and placed them in the closet. The next morning, I heard Jeff come downstairs and make it so it looked like I'd fallen asleep in front of the slip of paper. My arms crossed on the table, my head resting upon them, and my right hand holding a pen. I actually had been sleeping until 10 minutes before. When I first heard Jeff step out of the bathroom, I smiled before returning to my fake sleep mode until Jeff placed a hand on my shoulder and woke me up.
Looks like you couldn't sleep very well last night, huh? You still have some time until I come home. That's when I expect you to come up with an answer to my cute little ultimatum.
After seeing him off, I went back inside, gathered up the rest of his stuff, had a locksmith change the lock on the front door, and hired a moving van to deliver all of his stuff to his mother's house, cash on delivery. Then I went to City Hall and enthusiastically submitted the filled-out divorce document. To tell you the truth, the house where we were living was mine. Before I ever met Jeff, I was working my butt off saving to buy a decent house in the event that I might end up with the right person, and decided to have a child. It wasn't a large house, but it was definitely enough to start a family. And in the end, I never did meet the right person. I also had a plan to loan the house to someone extra as an extra income. So in other words, yes, I bought the house hoping I would start my own family. But even if I did, it would be pretty good investment. All of this meant that Jeff moved in with me when he married me, and not once did the house belong to him. After we married, he wanted to save up to either buy a bigger house or have one built for us. And we agreed that after we were officially married, I would quit my job to become a housewife, and that's exactly what happened. However, it quickly became apparent to me that Jeff's salary alone wouldn't be enough to raise my family without feeling stressed about impending financial doom, and maybe you could call it pre-pregnancy marital instincts. But all I ever worried about from that point onward was my child's future. I confided in Jeff about my concerns, and after some peaceful civilized negotiation, we decided that I would work part-time to provide some extra income while taking care of the home at the same time. By the way, it wasn't just the house that belonged to me. All the furniture was mine too. The only thing that belonged to Jeff was his clothes, his phone, and his bathroom things. Everything else belonged to me. That's why it didn't take so long to gather up everything he owed and shipped it to his mother's place. That evening, Jeff called me after he finished work.
Did you think hard and long about what I said? Good. Now you be a good girl, take care of Mom for me, and never inconvenience her or me ever again. I'll make sure you regret it if you screw up one more time. Actually, I was thinking we could pay Mom a visit so you can apologize for what you did.
I submitted the divorce document, Jeff, so I suggest you don't call me again. I'll make sure you regret it if you screw up one more time.
Huh? What? What did you... Sorry, I think the connection's a little weird. It sounded like you said you submitted the divorce documents. That's not what you said, is it?
No, the connection's fine, Jeff. You heard right. I did submit the divorce document this morning, in fact.
What the frick? The hell did you do that for? You submitted behind my back? What the...
You told me to do what I wanted to do with the document yourself, you know. And, by the way, I already picked up all your stuff and sent it over to my mother-in-law. There's no place for you to stay in this house anymore.
You stupid bitch! There's a line you should never cross when it comes to practical jokes!
Jeff was getting hot-headed over the phone, so my older brother, who was with me during all of this, took the phone away from me and said,
Good evening, Joffrey. This is Paxton, Jean's brother. It's been a while, hasn't it? Good evening, Mr. Paxton. What a nice surprise. What brings you by at this hour?
Jeff suddenly became more tame than a dog. I could almost see him dropping on his knees as he spoke with Paxton over the phone.
Why, you ask? I'm only here to celebrate my darling little sister's divorce, dude. Why else would I be here? Seems like she wants to talk to me about a lot of things that have happened over the last few years, too. Celebrating our divorce? But that's impossible, sir. We're not divorced, I assure you. But you do realize you offered Jean a divorce document, telling her that you're all right with the idea of ending the marriage, right? I suppose. But don't you think it's unfair that she went behind my back and submitted it without my knowing she did? Surely both parties of a divorcing couple have to be aware that the process is underway once it starts. That's a law that states that, sir, and that's why I say this particular file for divorce is invalid. It's invalid, I say. Hang on, back up there. Something doesn't seem right. You brought up the subject of divorce by bringing back a document that clearly stated you wish to divorce my younger sister. The document was filled out and signed by you even before you arrived home yesterday evening, and then you told her she could do whatever she wanted with the document, and that includes her signing it, not signing it, ripping it to shreds, or lighting it on fire. Am I missing something here? Then the only possible conclusion here is that Jean submitted a file for a divorce that you actively consented to, and therefore the divorce cannot be invalidated. Logic dictates that your divorce is now official. Do you have anything to argue? Wait, hold on. Hold on for what, you idiot? Do you mean to tell me you used the idea of a divorce to threaten her? In that case, you're the one who crossed that stupid line in a practical joke, buddy.
Paxton ripped the advantage away from Jeff, and now a phone call from Jeff to lecture had turned completely on his head. Paxton was lecturing, brutally insulting Jeff, whose pathetic sobs I could hear from the other side of the room. Afterwards, I demanded compensation from Miss Oregano from the physical and mental abuse she caused me, while at the same time going forward with the legal procedure to be completely divorced from Jeff. Everything went smoothly. Thanks, Paxton, darling. After the divorce, multiple sightings of Jeff in the neighborhood were reported, but a few phone calls and some official legal warnings made him stop demonstrating suspicious behavior. I sent an ad for renting the house Jeff and I were living in, and it didn't take very long for someone to come knocking at my door instead of the offer. Right now, I still have my part-time job, and I'm making a little extra money from the rent that my family pays me. I'm now living in my parents' home. Right now, I thought Jeff had ceased all suspicious activities. He tried infiltrating my family home a few months later, only to be thrown to the ground and severely lectured by my bodyguard/brother Paxton. That was the last time Jeff ever messed with us again. For real this time. A lot happened in such a short time, but you know what they say, all good things come to those who wait. My patience paid off, and now I'm living in a nice, peaceful life with my lovely family.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.